Hey coin fans and treasure hunters, welcome to World Rare Coins, the place where history, mystery, and massive value collide in the world of rare US coins. If you think a quarter is just pocket change, think again. Here, we uncover hidden gems, minting mistakes, and mind-blowing stories behind coins that collectors dream about. Ready to discover coins that could change your life? Then stick around, because you're about to enter the thrilling world of rare coins like never before. Let's get started. Top 1, we're talking about the United States of America 1-cent coin from 1960. Now, don't be fooled by its small size. This penny carries a history full of rarity, errors, and varieties that can turn just a single cent into a life-changing treasure. So listen very carefully and enjoy this story, because by the end, you will see how some of these coins are worth thousands, and one particular version has reached a jaw-dropping amount you won't believe. Let's begin with the basics. The 1960 penny features the familiar Lincoln design that first appeared in 1909 to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. On the obverse, or front side, you see the profile of President Lincoln facing right, with the inscriptions "In God We Trust" above, "Liberty" to the left, and the date 1960 to the right. On the reverse, we still see the classic wheat ears design, which was used from 1909 until 1958, replaced later by the Lincoln Memorial. But here's where things get interesting. The 1960 cent is part of a transitional year that gave us not just one, but several fascinating varieties. In 1960, the U.S. Mint produced two different date styles, the small date and the large date varieties. This happened because the original 1960 dies were modified during production. Collectors quickly noticed differences in the shape and size of the numerals, especially in the number 6 and the 0. The small date version shows a taller, thinner 0 and a more delicate 6, while the large date variety looks bolder and more prominent. To the casual eye, these details might go unnoticed, but to collectors, the difference is huge. Now, here's why this matters. The 1960 D small date Lincoln cent, struck at the Denver Mint, is among the most sought-after varieties in modern U.S. coinage. Because of limited production and the excitement it caused among collectors at the time, these coins became instant favorites. People rushed to banks, checking their change, and even hoarded mint rolls in hopes of finding the small date version. This created what is known in numismatic history as the 1960 small date craze. Even decades later, this variety remains an iconic piece in Lincoln cent collecting. But the story doesn't stop there. Along with the small date and large date differences, error coins from 1960 make this penny especially exciting. One of the most famous is the D over D mint mark error. This happens when the Denver Mint punched the D mint mark twice, resulting in what looks like a doubled or overlapping letter. Some examples show a strong doubling, while others are more subtle. Collectors absolutely love these kinds of errors because they prove the human element of coin production, mistakes that accidentally create rare and unique pieces of history. Another highly collectible error is the doubled die, where parts of the coin's design appear doubled due to misalignment in the die. On the 1960 Lincoln cents, doubling can appear in the inscriptions or in the date, making these coins stand out to even the untrained eye. Off-center strikes and die cracks are also known among 1960 pennies, and while these might not be as famous as the doubled die or the small date variety, they still add significant value depending on the severity and clarity of the error. Let's also talk about condition, because condition is everything in coin collecting. A 1960 cent that has been circulating in pockets and purses for decades will naturally show wear, scratches, and discoloration. While interesting, those coins usually don't fetch big prices. But if you find a 1960 penny in pristine, uncirculated condition, shiny, flawless, and free of damage, then you're holding something special. Coins graded at the highest levels, such as mint state 67 or higher, are extremely rare and highly prized. Combine that condition with a rare variety like the 1960 D small date or a dramatic mint error, and you've got a coin that could bring in serious money at auction. The popularity of the 1960 penny also comes from the fact that it represents a fascinating era in American history. The 1960s were a time of change, optimism, and progress. Owning a coin from that year feels like owning a little piece of the story that shaped modern America. That's why collectors don't just see the 1960 penny as another coin. They see it as a bridge between history, rarity, and passion for the hobby. Now imagine this. You're searching through an old jar of coins left by a grandparent, or maybe you're going through rolls of pennies from the bank, and suddenly, you notice something different about the date on a 1960 penny. Maybe it's a small date. Maybe it has a mint mark that looks doubled. Or maybe the coin is in such incredible condition that it looks like it was struck yesterday. That's the kind of discovery that can turn an ordinary day into an unforgettable moment. And now comes the moment you've been waiting for. While most 1960 pennies are worth just a cent, and even common varieties only bring in a few dollars, there are certain rare examples that have stunned the collecting world. When the right variety meets the right condition, the price can soar beyond imagination. In fact, one of the rarest and most valuable 1961-cent coins has been known to sell for as much as $89,000. Yes, you heard that correctly. $89,000 for a coin that most people wouldn't even bother to pick up off the sidewalk. That is the magic of coin collecting. The next treasure might be sitting quietly in a jar of pennies, waiting for someone with a careful eye to recognize its true value. So, my friends, don't overlook the humble penny. The 1961-cent coin may be small, but its story is larger than life. Whether it's the legendary small date variety, the fascinating D over D error, or simply a coin preserved in immaculate condition, it holds a place of honor in the world of numismatics. Top 2. We are about to uncover the secrets of a coin that millions of people once carried in their pockets without realizing its true potential. I'm talking about the United States of America 1-cent coin from 1961. At first glance, it might seem like just another ordinary penny, but once you learn its story, you'll discover why certain examples of this coin are considered rare, valuable, and highly collectible. So sit back, listen carefully, and enjoy this journey into the world of numismatics. Let's begin with its design. The obverse of the 1961 penny features the familiar portrait of President Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner. This design first appeared in 1909 to honor Lincoln's 100th birthday and has remained on the penny for over a century, making it one of the longest-running coin designs in American history. Above Lincoln's head is the motto, "In God We Trust." To the left is the word "Liberty," and to the right, the date 1961. If you spot a small D below the date, that means the coin was struck at the Denver Mint. Turning to the reverse side, you'll see the classic wheat ears design, also by Brenner. Two wheat stalks frame the words 1 cent, United States of America, and the Latin motto, E pluribus unum. This wheat reverse, which collectors affectionately call the wheat penny, had been in use since 1909, and by 1961, it was nearing the end of its run, as the reverse would be replaced by the Lincoln Memorial design in 1959. That makes the 1961 penny one of the later issues in the beloved wheat cent series, adding to its charm among collectors. Now, you might be asking, why would a penny from 1961 be rare or valuable if so many were made? After all, the U.S. Mint produced hundreds of millions of these coins between the Philadelphia and Denver mints. The answer lies in the details, varieties, errors, and condition. One of the most fascinating aspects of the 1961 penny is its doubled die varieties. These occur when the coin die, the metal stamp used to strike the coin, is impressed twice at slightly different angles. As a result, the lettering or numbers on the coin appear doubled. For 1961 pennies, doubling is most often seen in the inscriptions like "Liberty" or "In God We Trust," and sometimes even in the numbers of the date. Collectors treasure these doubled die pennies because they stand out clearly to the naked eye and are much rarer than regular issues. Another famous error associated with the 1961 cent is the re-punched mint mark, often referred to as RPM. This happens when the mint mark D for Denver was punched more than once into the die, creating a shadow effect or visible overlapping. Some examples are very bold, showing a distinct second D next to the first. These RPM errors are among the most popular with collectors of Lincoln cents, and they can dramatically increase the value of the coin depending on how strong and visible the doubling is. But that's not all. Other striking errors add even more excitement to the 1961 penny. Off-center strikes, where the design is not properly aligned with the coin blank, create eye-catching patterns that collectors love. Die cracks, cuds, and clipped planchets are also known for this year. Each of these mint mistakes turns an otherwise common penny into a unique piece of history, and uniqueness is exactly what drives collectors to pay big money. Condition also plays a huge role in value. The vast majority of 1961 pennies out there have circulated for decades, showing wear, scratches, and fading details. But if you happen to find one in pristine, uncirculated condition, the story changes completely. A coin graded mint state 65 or higher, especially if it's a rare error or variety, can sell for hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Coins with a bright red luster, known as red designations in the grading world, are even more desirable because they have retained their original mint shine. Another reason why collectors are drawn to the 1961 penny is the historical context. America in the early 1960s was standing at the threshold of a new era. The presidency of John F. Kennedy had just begun, and the country was filled with optimism and change. To hold a 1961 penny is to hold a small piece of that moment in time, when the world was looking toward the future while still carrying the values of the past. That connection to history makes the coin much more than just copper. It makes it a tangible story. Now imagine this. You're going through a jar of old coins left behind by a family member. You pour them out onto the table, and among the pile of dull pennies, you notice a shiny 1961 cent with something unusual about it. Maybe the mint mark looks doubled. Maybe the inscriptions seem slightly off, as though they were struck twice. Or maybe the coin looks brand new, like it never entered circulation. At that moment, you might be holding something far more valuable than you ever expected, and now comes the moment you've been waiting for, the value. While most 1961 pennies will always be worth just 1 cent, certain rare varieties, mint errors, and coins in top condition have shocked the coin collecting community with their prices. Some of these special examples have been known to sell for as much as $86,000. Yes, that's right, $86,000 for a coin that the average person might overlook or even toss aside. That's the magic of coin collecting. The thrill of the hunt, the discovery of something rare, and the possibility that one small coin can hold such immense value. So, my friends, never underestimate the power of a penny. The 1961 1-cent coin proves that hidden treasures are still out there, waiting to be discovered by those who take the time to look. Whether you're a seasoned collector or just starting out, keep your eyes open, because the next great find could be sitting in your pocket change right now. Top 3, we're diving into the fascinating story of a coin that almost every household in America once had, yet only a few truly realized its potential value. I'm talking about the United States of America 1-cent coin from the year 1964. At first glance, it may look like just another ordinary penny, but behind its simple design lies a world of rarity, errors, and collector intrigue. So listen carefully, enjoy the story, and who knows, you may discover that you've had a treasure sitting right under your nose this whole time. Let's begin with the basics. The 1964 1-cent coin belongs to the Lincoln Cent series, which started in 1909 to honor the 100th birthday of Abraham Lincoln. On the obverse side, or the front of the coin, you'll see the familiar portrait of President Lincoln designed by Victor David Brenner. It's one of the most iconic coin designs in the world, admired not just by Americans, but by collectors across the globe. Above Lincoln's head, you'll see the motto, "In God We Trust." To the left is the word liberty, and to the right is the date 1964. Some coins also feature a small D below the date, signifying that they were minted at the Denver Mint. Now let's flip the coin over. On the reverse, you'll find the Lincoln Memorial design, which replaced the wheat ears reverse in 1959. This new design, created by Frank Gasparo, features the famous Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., complete with tiny details that, if you look closely, even include a miniature statue of Lincoln seated inside. Above the memorial are the words United States of America, along with the motto E Pluribus Unum. Below, of course, you'll see 1 cent. This design connected Lincoln's portrait on the obverse to a monument honoring his legacy on the reverse, making it both symbolic and historically significant. Now, here's where things get really interesting. The year 1964 was one of massive coin production. With the U.S. economy booming and coin shortages spreading across the country, the mint struck billions of pennies that year, both in Philadelphia and Denver. With so many minted, Most people assume that every 1964 penny is extremely common and therefore worthless beyond a cent. And for the most part, that's true. Millions of these coins still circulate today, sitting in jars, drawers, and old piggy banks. But hidden among them are some very special examples that are worth far more than face value. The key to the 1964 penny's value lies in its varieties and errors. Let's start with one of the most sought-after features, doubled dies. A doubled die happens when the coin die, the tool used to stamp the design onto the blank coin, gets imprinted twice at slightly different angles. This creates a doubling effect on the letters or numbers. For the 1964 penny, collectors have discovered doubled die obverse, where the inscriptions "In God We Trust" or "Liberty" appear doubled. In some cases, even the date shows signs of doubling. These varieties are rare and immediately stand out to collectors, adding huge value to what otherwise looks like an everyday coin. Next, we have repunched mint marks, often called RPMs. In 1964, mint marks were still hand-punched onto the dies, which means mistakes were common. Sometimes the D mint mark for Denver was punched twice, leaving behind a shadow or even a clear doubling effect. These RPM varieties are extremely popular in the world of Lincoln cents. Some are subtle, but others are bold enough to be seen without magnification. If you happen to find a strong RPM on your 1964 penny, you may be holding something quite rare, but the story doesn't stop there. The 1964 penny also exists with off-center strikes, where the coin wasn't perfectly aligned with the dies during the strike. These errors can be dramatic. Some coins are struck so far off-center that only part of the design is visible. Collectors prize these unusual-looking pieces because each one is unique. Other known errors include die cracks, which appear as raised lines on the coin's surface, clipped planchets where a small portion of the coin is missing, and even broad strikes that cause the coin to spread out beyond its normal shape. Each of these minting mistakes transforms the penny into something rare and collectible. Now let's talk about condition. The majority of 1964 pennies you'll encounter are circulated and worn. They've passed through countless hands over the decades, losing much of their original detail and luster. But the real treasures are the coins that survived in pristine condition. Collectors and grading services like PCGS and NGC place a huge premium on coins in mint state grades, especially those with original red color. Copper coins like the penny tend to darken over time, but if a coin remains bright red as it was when it left the mint, its desirability skyrockets. A 1964 penny in high-grade mint state red, combined with a rare error or variety, is the type of coin that collectors dream about finding. What makes the 1964 penny especially intriguing is its connection to history. Think about it. 1964 was a time of enormous change in America. The civil rights movement was gaining momentum, the Vietnam War was escalating, and the country was still reeling from the assassination of President John F. Kennedy the year before. Every coin from that year carries with it a silent witness to that moment in history. To hold a 1964 penny is to hold a piece of the story of America during one of its most transformative decades. Now picture this. You're sorting through a handful of old pennies, maybe ones passed down from a relative, or perhaps coins you've saved without giving them much thought. As you look closer, one particular coin catches your eye. Something about the date looks unusual. Maybe the letters show signs of doubling, or maybe the D mint mark doesn't look quite right. You grab a magnifying glass, and suddenly you realize you're holding a rare variety. That rush of excitement is what makes coin collecting so addictive. The possibility that even the most ordinary-looking coin could turn out to be worth a small fortune. And now, my friends, we come to the moment you've been waiting for. While most 1964 pennies will never be worth more than face value, the rarest varieties, the boldest errors, and the highest grade examples have reached incredible prices at auctions and among serious collectors. Some of these special coins have been known to sell for as much as $84,000. Yes, you heard that right. $84,000 for a penny. That's the magic of numismatics. A simple copper coin that most people wouldn't think twice about can become a highly prized treasured SO the next time you come across a 1964 penny. Don't just toss it aside. Take a closer look, because you never know, you might be holding one of the rarest and most valuable examples out there. Top for we're diving deep into a coin that many people have seen, millions have spent without a second thought, but only a few collectors know its true secrets. I'm talking about the United States of America 1-cent coin from the year 1971. At first glance, this penny looks ordinary, but behind its simple copper appearance lies a fascinating story of varieties, errors, and collector value. So sit back, listen carefully, and enjoy this journey into the world of numismatics. You might just find out that the penny sitting in your collection is worth far more than a single cent. Let's start with the design. The obverse, or the front, features the portrait of Abraham Lincoln, which by 1971 had already been on the penny for over 60 years. This design by Victor David Brenner remains one of the most iconic in U.S. coinage history. Above Lincoln's head, you'll see the words, "In God We Trust." To the left, you'll find "Liberty," and to the right, the year 1971. Depending on where it was minted, the coin may also carry a mint mark just below the date. No mint mark for Philadelphia, a D for Denver, or an S for San Francisco. Turning the coin over, the reverse showcases the Lincoln Memorial, designed by Frank Gasparo. This detailed design not only depicts the national monument, but if you look closely with a magnifying glass, you can actually see the tiny image of Lincoln's statue sitting inside the memorial. The words United States of America arc across the top, with the motto E Pluribus Unum just beneath it and 1 cent at the bottom. Together, both sides of the coin tell a story of America's values, history, and leadership. Now, the year 1971 is particularly interesting because it came at a turning point for U.S. coinage. The mint was experimenting with materials, striking techniques, and facing growing demand for coins in circulation. The penny of 1971 was still made primarily from copper, 95% copper and 5% zinc. But within just over a decade, the composition would change dramatically to the copper-plated zinc coins we see today. This means that a 1971 penny is not only historical in its design, but also a relic of the time when pennies had real metal value close to their face value. But here's the most exciting part. Hidden within the millions of 1971 pennies are certain rare varieties and striking errors that make some of them extremely valuable. Let's break it down. Point one of the most famous varieties is the 1971 double die obverse. In this rare error, the coin's die was improperly manufactured, causing a doubled image to appear on the design. Collectors who are lucky enough to find this variety will notice that the inscriptions "Liberty" or "In God We Trust" appear doubled, as if stamped twice. Even the date, 1971, itself can show doubling. This type of error isn't just a minor flaw. It's a dramatic visual difference that makes the coin immediately stand out. Because of its rarity, the double die obverse is one of the most sought-after 1971 pennies by collectors. Another important aspect is the 1971 S-proof coins. Proof coins were struck at the San Francisco Mint with polished dies and specially prepared planchets, resulting in a sharp, mirror-like finish. Some of these proof coins, however, have unique varieties, like the double die obverse found in certain proof issues. Since proof coins were never meant for circulation and were produced in smaller quantities, these varieties are extremely rare and command high premiums. Then there are repunched mint marks, often called RPMs. In 1971, the mint mark was still manually punched into the dies, which meant human error could lead to the mint mark being applied more than once, slightly off target. As a result, some 1971 D pennies feature a D that looks shadowed, doubled, or even tripled. These varieties may seem small, but for collectors, they are highly prized because they showcase a unique piece of minting history. And we also have to mention striking errors such as off-center strikes, broad strikes, and clipped planchets. An off-center strike can result in a coin where Lincoln's portrait is only partially visible, with a large blank crescent along the edge. A clipped planchet error leaves the penny with a small curved piece missing, almost as if someone took a bite out of it. Broad strikes can stretch the coin beyond its normal borders, creating a warped yet fascinating shape. Each of these errors is one of a kind, which adds to its value and appeal to collectors. But perhaps the biggest factor in determining a coin's worth is condition. Most 1971 pennies you'll find in circulation are heavily worn, with scratches, discoloration, and loss of detail. But if you come across a coin in mint state condition, meaning it looks as though it just came from the mint without any wear, it could be worth significantly more. And if the coin still has its original red luster, that fiery copper glow collectors crave, then the value goes up even further. Coins graded by professional services such as PCGS or NGC in high mint state red condition are incredibly desirable. Now let's add in the historical context. 1971 was the year the United States officially abandoned the gold standard under President Richard Nixon, changing the course of American economic history. It was also a time of cultural change, with the Vietnam War, space exploration, and a shifting society. Every coin minted in 1971, including the humble penny, became a witness to these events. Holding on to a 1971 penny is like holding on to a piece of that history, a small copper reminder of the changes America was going through at that time. Imagine this. You're searching through a handful of old pennies, maybe from a coin jar that's been sitting in your home for years. At first, you think it's all ordinary pocket change, but then your eye catches something different. Maybe the date looks doubled, maybe the mint mark looks unusual, or maybe the coin is in such pristine condition that it shines brighter than all the others. That moment of realization, that spark of discovery, is what excites collectors and makes this hobby so rewarding to us. Oh, how valuable can these 1971 pennies really get? While the majority of them are only worth a cent or slightly more, the rarest varieties, the boldest doubled dies, and the highest graded examples have shocked collectors at auctions. Some of these exceptional coins have reached the astonishing price of $81,000. Yes, you heard that correctly. $81,000 for a single penny. That is the magic of coin collecting. Something so small, so ordinary to most people, can become a true treasure to those who know what to look for. So the next time you come across a 1971 penny, don't ignore it. Take a closer look, study its details, and you may just be holding a rare and valuable piece of American history. Top 5, we're talking about the United States of America 1-cent coin from the year 1973. At first glance, it may look like just another ordinary penny, but as you'll discover in this video, there are rare varieties, unique minting errors, and special conditions that can transform this tiny copper coin into something truly valuable. So listen carefully and enjoy the story, because the humble 1973 penny might just be one of the coins that takes you by surprise. Let's begin with the basics. The obverse of the coin, the front side, features the iconic portrait of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner. By 1973, the Lincoln cent had already been in circulation for over 6 decades, making it one of the longest-running designs in American coin history. Above Lincoln's head, the words "In God We Trust" stretch across the top. To the left is the word "Liberty," and to the right, you'll find the date 1973. Depending on where it was struck, you might also notice a mint mark under the date. No mint mark for Philadelphia, a D for Denver, or an S for San Francisco. On the reverse, you'll find the detailed image of the Lincoln Memorial, created by designer Frank Gasparo. This design was used from 1959 until 2008, and it's one of the most recognized images in American coinage. If you look closely, especially with a magnifying glass, you can even see a tiny engraving of Abraham Lincoln sitting inside the memorial. Surrounding the image are the inscriptions "United States of America, e pluribus unum," and the denomination 1 cent. Now, the year 1973 is fascinating for a few reasons. First, these pennies were still made of a 95% copper and 5% zinc composition. That alone makes them different from today's pennies, which since 1982 have been mostly zinc with a thin copper plating. A 1973 penny has a real copper weight, which not only gives it a richer color, but also a more substantial feel in your hand. Many collectors love pre-1982 pennies for this very reason. But what truly makes some 1973 pennies valuable are the rare varieties and errors that slipped through during minting. The most famous of these is the double die obverse. This error occurs when the die used to strike the coin is improperly manufactured, resulting in a doubling effect on the design. On a 1973 double die obverse penny, you might notice that the inscriptions like "Liberty" or "In God We Trust" appear doubled, almost as if stamped twice. Even the numbers and the date can show this effect. This is not just a minor misprint. It's a bold, eye-catching error that collectors are always searching for. Another fascinating area is proof coins from the San Francisco Mint. Proof coins are made with special dies and highly polished planchets, giving them a mirror-like finish and sharp details. In 1973, the San Francisco Mint produced proof sets that included the penny. Some of these proof pennies have unique varieties, like doubling on the lettering or the date. Since proof coins were produced in far fewer numbers and intended only for collectors, any error or variety in these makes them particularly rare and highly desirable. But let's not forget about mint mark varieties. In 1973, mint marks were still manually punched onto the dies. This created opportunities for mistakes like repunched mint marks, also known as RPMs. For example, on some 1973 D pennies, the D mint mark may appear doubled or shifted slightly because it was punched more than once. Collectors prize these because they show the human element of the minting process, tiny accidents that turned into collectible treasures that, of course, striking errors add even more excitement. Imagine finding a 1973 penny that was struck off-center, leaving part of Lincoln's portrait missing and a blank crescent on the coin. Or a broad strike error, where the coin expands beyond its normal size because it wasn't struck properly within the retaining collar. Then there are clipped planchets, where the coin has a curved section missing, almost as if someone clipped off a bite. Each of these errors is unique, and uniqueness is what drives collector interest. But condition is just as important as variety. The majority of 1973 pennies you'll see in circulation are worn down, with scratches, discoloration, and faded details. However, if you come across a coin in mint state condition, meaning it has never been used and shows no signs of wear, the value jumps significantly. Coins with their original red copper luster are especially prized. Over time, copper coins tend to turn brown or darken, so finding a brilliant red example from 1973 is a rare treat. Professional grading services like PCGS or NGC certify these coins, and high-grade examples can command impressive prices at auction. Now, let's take a moment to think about the history around this coin. The year 1973 was a turning point in America. The country was experiencing political turbulence with the Watergate scandal, global economic shifts, and cultural changes. Every penny minted during this time is a tiny artifact of that era, carrying with it the weight of history. For collectors, owning a coin from 1973 is not just about the metal. It's about holding a piece of the story of America during a time of change. Picture this for a moment. You're digging through an old jar of coins, maybe one that's been sitting on a shelf for years. Among the ordinary change, you spot a bright 1973 penny. At first, it looks no different from the others. But when you take a closer look, you notice something unusual. Maybe the date looks doubled, maybe the mint mark is oddly placed, or maybe the coin shines with a brilliance that tells you it has been perfectly preserved since the day it left the mint. That moment of discovery, that realization that you might be holding a rare treasure, is what makes coin collecting so thrilling. Now the question you're probably asking is, just how valuable can a 1973 penny really be? While most examples are only worth face value or a few cents more, the rare varieties, dramatic doubled dies, and pristine high-grade examples have amazed collectors at auctions. Some of these special coins have reached an incredible value of $77,000. Yes, you heard that right, $77,000 for a single penny. It's almost hard to believe, but that's the beauty of numismatics. What looks like an ordinary coin to one person could be a life-changing discovery to another. The next time you see a 1973 penny, don't pass it off as just another piece of change. Take a closer look, check the details, and who knows, you might just be holding one of the rarest and most valuable cents in American history.